So for January, we have a slump. We have leaning on the wall. We have a band pull apart or scapula retraction. We have a wall push up with a little focus on your serratus and the muscles down the side of your torso. And then I want you to find somewhere to hang. See if you can find a doorway or find something in the park nearby where you can just grab onto something and practice hanging. Okay, so here are your January 5 exercises. This first one, we're talking about posture this month. And when I say posture, what I mean is how your shoulders and head and neck sit on your spine specifically. So go into what feels like bad posture. Exaggerate that slumpy feeling. Let your shoulders roll forward. And you can do this from seated or from standing and see what that feels like to allow your shoulder blades to slide forward, contract your chest. Notice what your head wants to do. Does your chin jut forward? Does it droop down? Take a big deep breath. Breathe into your back as you contract your front. And then slowly come out of there and stand in what feels like a neutral position, meaning my ear is stacked over my shoulders and ribs is stacked over my hips. Rest here for a second. And then do the opposite of that. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. You can even stick your tail behind you, your head, your arms can move. So now I'm contracting the back of me and letting the front side stretch. Hold there for a second. And then come back to what feels like a neutral or a stacked up tall position. I'm going to turn around and show this from the back. This is my slumpy position. You can see how I'm wide across my upper back. I'm going to come back up to what feels like a stacked or neutral position. And then the opposite of that would be squeezing my shoulder blades together, creating some tension across my upper back, and then coming back to what feels like a neutral position. So we don't want to hang out in either of those, exaggerated, or some of my people have what I call presentational rib cage, where your rib kind of sticks out and there's a lot of tension in your upper back. You might notice you tend to roll forward, have tension here. So one good cue that you can use during the day as you're starting to pay attention to this, where do your fingernails face? If your fingernails face forward, or if you've seen pictures of you standing this way, I'm going to bet there's some tension across your chest. If you can let your arms hang with your fingernails facing the side, that might help put you in what more of a neutral position, or arms just hanging at your side. So that's step one, is going through that rounding of the front, tensing of the back, and then finding what feels like a nice stacked position. Step two, I want you to go lean on a wall, but I'm going to use this roller to show you what I'm asking you to do. I want you to see if you can lean on the wall with most of your pelvis and your ribs and your shoulders on the wall. So this would be a lot of an arch in my back. This is sort of a hyper flat back, and I don't want to be in either of those. I want to just lean my shoulders and my pelvis on the wall. So come do with me. We're just going to lean on the wall. You can have your feet a little bit out from the wall. Your head might not be on the wall today. That's okay. If you can rest your head comfortably on the wall, hooray, but don't force it. So that's all we're doing. We're just going to hang out with most of shoulders, back, and rib cage on the wall. Your pelvis on the wall. I can slide a hand behind my low back. I can slide a hand behind my neck. So I'm not going for this hyper flattened low back. I'm just trying to keep some width across my shoulders and see what this feels like to stack up my head, my shoulders and ribs, and my hips against the wall. And then once you stood there for a couple minutes, come away, or a couple breaths, come away from the wall and stack yourself away from the wall and see if you can get that feeling again of not forward shoulders, not arch back, but stacked ear, shoulder, rib, and hip. So a big part of this posture awareness is figuring out where my shoulders are in space. I'm going to show you two ways to find your shoulder blades. One is to stretch your arms out in front of you. Reach your arms out to the side and see if you can feel this connection from your arms to your shoulder blades. Can you see how I can pinch my shoulder blades in towards my spine? And then as I reach my arms forward, I can let them widen apart. So I'm just moving my arms to the side, moving them to the front, but I'm not just moving my arms, I'm connecting my arms to my shoulders. If that feels doable, the next part could be squeezing a band and pulling the band towards you. I'm going to flip around so you can see my upper back. I'm squeezing my shoulder blade, squeezing the band, releasing. So you could try 5 of these with your arms going straight out, pulling on your shoulder blades, pulling on the band. I've also been experimenting with bringing the band a little bit higher on the diagonal, and I'm in a tiny little bit of a back bend. So whichever version feels more comfortable today. Now I'm imagining if I were pulling the band down from the ceiling, squeezing my shoulder blades together, letting them slide apart, squeezing them together. So I'm creating a little tension across my upper back and shoulders, about 5 or 10 of these, and then take a little rest. So in addition to figuring out where your shoulder blade is on your back, how to move it, you also want to be able to control it so that when you're doing a move like a push-up, there's not really much happening with your shoulders. So I'm going to show just standing with my arm out in front of me. And if I can think of contracting this muscle in my, just south of my armpit as I push my hand to the wall. So that's relaxed. See how I'm kind of squishy in here on the side of my armpit? If I push and think of engaging this muscle, that feels different. I want you to think of this idea as we come to a wall and do wall push-ups. So all you're going to do is push your hands into the wall, bend your elbows and straighten them, and try to avoid doing the shoulder blade squeeze. So come with me to the wall, and we're going to try 5 to 10 wall push-ups without letting that shoulder blade slide and glide. So I've got my hands just a little bit lower than shoulder height. I'm pushing the wall away, and when I do that, I can feel these just below my armpit muscles kicking in. I'm going to keep that engagement and just barely bend my elbows, straighten them, and push the wall away. So I'm pushing the wall with my hands, bending my elbows, and trying to avoid squeezing my shoulder blade. So I'll show one bad way when I just kind of let everything flop. My head flops forward, my shoulder blade squeeze. I'm going to go back to the good way that I'm going for today. Pushing hands into the wall, slight elbow bend. As I bend and straighten, nothing's moving in my back. So see how that feels to do just some easy does it wall push-ups. And notice if your shoulder blades cave in and your neck muscles tighten, or if you can keep your upper body really wide as you push the wall away. And then last but not least is hanging. We've been practicing different versions of this. If you have a doorway you can hang from, or even holding your arms in a doorway like so. So I don't have a good way to demonstrate this in this room, but I want you to go find something that you can either reach up in a doorway, find a windowsill. And when I say hang, it doesn't mean all of your weight necessarily, but you could find your doorway, soften your knees a little bit, and just see what that feels like to bring some weight into your arms.